When I was a little kid, my parents let me stay with my grandparents for a week over the summer. My grandparents lived in a large 3-story house, and there was only one bedroom on the first floor. I loved staying with my grandparents, but sometimes the house was a little too silent, and no matter how soft or low, I felt like I noticed every small noise that broke this silence. I would hear unfamiliar footsteps from the room on the first floor. Sometimes they came from my mom's former bedroom, which I had for myself while I stayed there. I asked my grandmother once if she could hear the footsteps. She shook her head and asked me if my mother had told me about this noise, which was odd because she hadn't. My grandmother explained that my mother always used to complain that someone else was in the house, but she herself had never heard or seen anything. 2 days later, I was sleeping in my mom's old bedroom, and I had this nightmare that while I slept on the bed, a tall, dark figure stood over me, just watching me. It had no eyes, but its head was bent towards my direction. It kept looking at me for a long while, but then all of a sudden it reached out and grabbed my wrist. I was so terrified I woke up sweating, even though there was plenty of air conditioning in the room. I reached for the light immediately, but as I switched on the lamp, my wrist hurt as if it had been heavily sprained. Gasping from the pain, I looked at my arm. There was a big red mark all around my wrist. I didn't even bother switching the light off. I just ran to my grandmother's room and crawled up onto her bed. The next morning, my arm was fine. I didn't say anything to my grandparents, but I ensured they were around me all the time, and I slept in their room the rest of the week. Nothing happened again. But when I got back home, I told my mom about it, and she told me the thing only bothers those who pay attention to it. According to her, I wasn't used to so much silence, and that's how it got me. The key to avoid the haunting was to keep your mind busy. The more you had on your mind, the easier you could tune it out, which explained why my grandparents never heard it. They were busy-minded people. I always kept myself busy after that whenever I visited the house. They still live there, and I didn't experience it again.